You are listening to the Overthinker's Guide to Joy, episode 33. This is the one where we're going to talk all about all or nothing thinking. Let's dive in. This is a podcast for overthinkers, overdoers, and overachievers who are tired of feeling over-anxious and just want to feel better. I'm your host, certified life coach, Jackie DeCrenis. Hey there, and welcome back. So I hope you're having a good week. And if you're listening to this in real time, spring has sprung, and there is just a new energy all around. I know I said that a few weeks ago about spring being sprung, but something about right now in April is just particularly joyful. And I think part of it is I love springtime. I love when the weather gets warmer, but it's not too hot. And I love the colors of spring. And at my home, we have these beautiful jacaranda trees, which bloom these magnificent purple flowers, and they tend to turn purple at the same time the agapantha flowers do. So my whole front yard pops with this magical canopy of purple color, and it's kind of intoxicating and uplifting, and I just love it. Now, the truth is, we don't really have 4 seasons in Hawaii. It's more like 2 seasons, warm and hot. And it reminds me that we can change too. I was reminded of this several times over the last few weeks. As I was talking to clients, I noticed another pattern that was coming up. And the pattern was all or nothing thinking. And I thought I would share with you a few client stories that were illustrative of this type of thinking. I have one client who was a former marathon runner. She ran her whole life. She loved running. She was really good at it. It helped her maintain her weight and her health, and it managed her mind. But it also gave her a community of friends. She belonged to running clubs, and she had running accountability partners. And it was kind of just her whole social life. So it gave her a break from her work, and it gave her a break from just the day-to-day rat race, and it was something she loved and she was good at. It provided her healthy competition and a really strong dose of self-esteem. But about 10 years ago, after a series of unrelated injuries, what started out first as a knee problem and then became a lower back problem and then eventually a broken ankle, she stopped running. She lost the motivation, she lost her confidence, and then she became very fearful of hurting herself again, although not all the injuries were caused by running, but they were all aggravated by running. So when she told me the story about how she used to run, but couldn't bear the thought of getting back to it because she felt it would be hard, and she knew she was out of shape, and she knew that she wouldn't be able to run a mile, much less 26 miles. So I asked her, why do you have to run 26 miles? Why can't you just walk a mile? And she said, because that would just be too frustrating and humiliating and defeating. She said she was more of an all or nothing person. And what we learned was this shows up in other facets of her life too. Now, I've seen this pattern or this type of thinking in my weight loss clients as well. Like they'll take a bite of a brownie or have a glass of wine, and then they decide to forego their dietary goals for the entire day. Because the mentality is, well, I already blew my diet, so why not just eat and drink whatever I want today? I'll start my diet tomorrow. But the problem is, sometimes that day turns into a week, and then a month, and then they give up altogether. Another thing I hear, and you've heard me say this many times, is when a client tells me they can't learn to meditate. And when I ask them what's holding them back, they'll say, well, I haven't found the right meditation cushion, or I just can't sit in silence for 20 minutes. And I always ask, why do you need a meditation cushion at all? What if you just sat in a chair or on your sofa or on your bed? And they're always surprised by this. I always remind them there is no right or wrong way to meditate. There is just the doing it, the practice of doing. And when I tell them they don't need to meditate for 20 minutes, they just need to meditate for 5 minutes, and they can listen to a guided meditation or music, they are also surprised. The truth is, you can meditate for 1 minute. Just close your eyes and breathe in and out slowly. That's meditation. But we tell ourselves this story. It has to be perfect or it shouldn't be done. Where does that thinking come from? Well, in my experience, it stems from somewhere in our upbringing. Either there was a parent or a caregiver or a coach who gave us the message that if we're not going to give everything 100%, then we shouldn't be trying at all. So if you weren't going to win, then don't bother competing. Well, that misguided notion may have been rooted in good intentions. It is a misguided notion. The intention should be to always do your best, try your best, but it doesn't mean you have to be the best. Now, sometimes we develop this all or nothing thinking as a defense mechanism. It's a coping strategy to simplify things. When we grow up in a household where things might have been unpredictable because children have to cope with parents sometimes who are divorced, or perhaps a parent has died prematurely, or parents who were suffering with alcohol or drug addictions or even mental illness. What happens is children then grow up wanting more certainty in their lives, wanting more control in their lives, more guardrails, a way of feeling or self-soothing what is a very chaotic world. So this is how the all or nothing coping strategy is born. Now, I've talked about this before a little bit in episode 12, my episode on perfectionism. We think by having high standards for ourselves, we avoid judgment. We think we avoid failure and maybe avoid disappointment. While this type of thinking can be very motivating for some people, it can help push people to work harder in some areas, particularly when it comes to competitions, athletic, academic, or creative endeavors. That's fine as a lens of motivation. But when it becomes the only operating manual you're using, it's a short-term solution, because the all or nothing thinking can look like a blessing as you're training harder or working harder towards a particular goal, but eventually it becomes an impediment. Because if you don't get the results you wanted, that is, you don't win the race, or you don't become number one, or you don't get the job you set your sights for, or whatever, it can prevent you from going out there and trying again. Or, in the case of my client who was the runner, when an injury occurs and you can't do the thing you've trained at or are good at or love, the setback becomes so huge you don't try anything else. I believe we give ourselves a hall pass from trying when this occurs. I think that if we think we might fail at something, whether it's losing weight, getting healthier, finding a mate, getting a job, or having a better relationship, we think we avoid the disappointment by simply not trying. We tell ourselves if it's not perfect, it's not worth doing. If I'm not the best, I shouldn't bother trying. But doing your best is very different from being the best. You may have heard me say this before, Woody Allen's famous quote, "Success is 80% showing up." So how do we break this habit of all or nothing thinking? How do we unwind this pattern of avoidance? Well, here are 4 simple steps to help you overcome this way of thinking. Number 1, stop telling yourself that you're an all or nothing person. You've heard me talk about this before. Labels that you give yourself or others tend to reinforce behaviors or perceptions. So let that go. Number 2, accept that a little bit is really enough. That's like I was talking about earlier. 1 minute of meditation is better than none. A walk around the block is better than not moving at all. All right, number 3, aim for progress, not perfection. This goes to the very essence of what I talk about every week. It's all just a practice. Number 4, praise yourself for the small wins. When I have a client that tells me that they've gone from drinking 1 glass of water a day to 4 glasses, I tell them to celebrate this. Yes, even drinking more water deserves praise. But it goes to all of your habits. When you start doing one little thing a day, and I did a whole episode on habits last week, stop and praise yourself. Give yourself credit for where you've had progress. Now, how do I know so much about all or nothing thinking? Because this was kind of my modus operandi for most of my life too. I thought it was a shortcut to think of things in 2 categories. That all or nothing, that black or white, that good or bad, that success or failure. But learning to see things with more compassion, curiosity, and even forgiveness, whether it's for yourself or for others, can open up your world to a whole new level of opportunity and joy. So my client who stopped running for nearly a decade has started walking up hills now and running down them. She says that she forgot how joyful it was to have the wind in her face and go fast again. And she's looking forward to learning to run back up hills, but for now, she's thrilled that she's running down them. My client who couldn't stick to her healthy eating program no longer sees it as an all or nothing, just because she might have had a glass of wine or maybe an occasional dessert. She has gone on to lose 12 pounds. My client who absolutely could not meditate now starts every day with a 5-minute guided meditation before she has her first cup of coffee. We celebrate their wins. We celebrate the practice. They're learning to let go of the all or nothing and embrace the 50 shades of gray. So I have one question for you. Where are you letting that all or nothing mentality get in your way? And what's one thing you could do today that might change it? All right, friends, I hope you will try something new that you were afraid of, or reacquaint yourself with something that you missed doing and want to give it a try again. I look forward to talking to you next time. Have a great week, and bye for now. Thank you for listening to this episode of the Overthinker's Guide to Joy. If you're enjoying these episodes, please subscribe or follow this podcast so you can always be in the know when the next episode drops. If you would like to learn more about working with me as a coach, you can connect with me through my website at jackiedegrenis.com. That's JACKIEDECRINIS.com.